when motors started failing, March 2022 is when Toyota says they had their first field report of a V35A FTS Type 21. So we're going to go with Type 21 because it's Tundra, Sequoia, GX, LX, and the J300 Landcruiser overseas. That's 5 months into production. Production started in November of 21 for the Tundra, non-hybrid, and then the hybrid came along in April of 22. So you're 5 months into production and you already have a motor failing. So that's where, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So you've been hearing reports about 300 series Land Cruisers having these issues as well.
100%. There is a recall in the Middle East for the motor. Same thing.
I was just going to say, yeah. What will Al Qaeda do now?
Well, they've got the diesel, so they'll just go the diesel route. But even over there, they were seeing really weird bearing wear, so they switched to 40 weight, 50 weight oil, and motors were still popping. And so that's where I go. There's got to be. I've always contested that the debris issue was real, and I've got a short block that's brand new that has debris. For sure, that was probably some of the issues. But at this point, when you have 2025s, like the latest one that I know of, that I've been in contact with the owner, it's 1,270 miles on it, locked up, seized up on him. And Toyota's like, we're not going to do a long block for you. We're only going to do a short block. So then I messaged with him on Saturday. The dealership dented or scratched almost every panel on his truck. Toyota tried to tell him that it wasn't the dealer that did it, and he had pictures to prove it was the dealer that did it. So then they go back and forth. Well, then the passenger side, I believe it was the passenger side valve cover gasket wasn't seated correctly. So now he's got oil dripping out, right? So then that takes them additional days and they have to wait on parts. It's just a mess. And so I'm in contact with a few different service managers, and I'm like, hey, you really need to push Toyota to send you this part number. So the part number is 19000-F4030. That is what Toyota considers a long block assembly. They call it a partial engine assembly. But that has always been available for engine repairs. It's never not been available. I believe the part number for the hybrid is either 4020 or 4040. I can't remember right now, but it's just one of those things that I know, because locally I know that Toyota of Plano, which is literally across the street from Toyota Motor North American headquarters, I know that they've done full engine replacements on hybrids within Toyota's corporate fleet. So Toyota knows. Yeah, I know that Toyota knows that their own corporate fleet has failures on the hybrid, but yet they aren't willing to do anything from a recall perspective for both Tundra and Sequoia owners that are having failures, right? So that's where my contention with them is like, you've never had this happen. That's the biggest piece, is like, this is something that they don't understand how to deal with, because honestly, when it comes to something powertrain related, they've never had to issue a recall this large. Sure, they've had recalls like with the RAV4 battery tie down. I think it's almost 2 million vehicles or something like that. That's completely different. Yeah. Although there are many RAV4s that have burned to the ground because of it. It's completely different than being stranded on the side of the road with your family in 100-degree heat. Like for me, my motor failed on July 1st, 2024. It's 105 degrees in Texas. Took them 4.5 hours in DFW to get me a tow truck. 4.5 hours. And I was 5 minutes from my dealership. But it took them 4.5 hours to get me towed. And then they closed every case that I had with Toyota brand engagement. Every case would be closed within 2 hours of me calling. They never once responded to it, just closed the case. And so my contention with them is like, hey, I get that I've kind of pushed the issue here and I've been the vocal one, but I'm a customer. Like my entire family is Toyota or Lexus. My mom has a GX460. My dad has a 2020 Tundra. My brother and sister-in-law have a 2015 Sequoia, and then I'm driving a 2021 Sequoia TRD Pro. And we've always had a Toyota in the family, no matter what. Like I had a Supra in high school, I had a Supra in college. My mom's had multiple Camrys. I've had an RX 350. a GS 350, like we're a Toyota family. And simply because of what you've shared, Nate, I will not buy anything that is American because I know that Toyota and Lexus will take care of me. But right now they've done just a really poor job, not just with me, but with multiple customers at handling recalls. So, you know, my career has been in customer service, whether it be project management and construction, or I worked for the fruit stand known as Apple out of California for 5 years in college. The store that I worked at, other than the 2 Japanese stores in 2014, we were number 3 in the world for customer satisfaction. So I know what that looks like. I know what customer service looks like. I know how to handle recalls. I know how to handle customer service programs. I can't begin to tell you how many of those we had when I was at Apple. And they would say, hey, here's the language that you need to use, and this is what you're going to do to take care of the customer, versus I call Toyota and literally the person I'm talking to has no idea that there's even a recall on my truck for the engine.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? Like, we're 30 days post recall being issued, and the person I'm talking to on the phone has no idea that there's a recall on my truck.
So what's the biggest question everyone's going to want to know is, and I get it all the time in email, all the time in the comments, is like, is the Tundra safe to buy? And I look at the, you know, I've only seen maybe like 5 to 10 2025s that have died.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of confirmation, but they're so new. They have low miles. Like there can't be that many with more than 20,000 miles on them. So I don't know. Can you share, what do you think? What's your opinion on that?
So at this point, I think that they've got a handle on it, but at the same time, what has been shared with me, well, I don't know if you've been in the Tundra group, but so at this point, do I think it's safe? I think it's always been safe from 2024 on. You know, my family member and a service manager that I talked to, like Ford, GM, Stellantis, they would love if their engine failure rate was 1%. They would love that, right? But Toyota's used to being at 0.5% or below. And most of the time it's going to be like 0.2, 0.3%. So it's such a small number, even now at 1% for Toyota. But the biggest thing is you've ruined the reputation of the Tundra. And that's prevalent. And you can look at the data when it comes to resale value, even for trucks that have had the recall remedy performed, like resale value is terrible. So I was really happy that Toyota bought my truck back for everything that I paid for it, because I had been in the hole. I was already in the hole, let alone with the recall being issued. Like I probably would have lost 20 grand, like pretty easily. And I bought a 2022 and prices have only gone up since then. So like my 2022 Platinum 4x4 was, I think 66 something. And now that same truck would be almost 75, I think. So it's one of those things. Do I think it's safe? Yes. Is Toyota going to take care of you? Somewhat. I mean, they will do a short block rebuild for you. Do I think that's the best way forward for Toyota? No. And the reason I say that is when you talk about doing a short block rebuild, one, you're having to wait on heads. You're having to wait on turbos. Like if you just do the partial engine assembly, it literally is probably a fourth or a third of the time that it would take to do a short block rebuild. And techs love that. And not only that, it's cheaper for Toyota. Like to order all the parts for a short block rebuild, I think it's 23 grand now. I updated the numbers in my sheet, but I think it's 23 grand where a partial engine assembly MSRP is 14 or 15. So you're saving 10 grand right off the top, not counting the labor portion of it. So I think it's safe at this point. Obviously I emailed you some information about a month ago that came across my desk that I have been able to confirm across multiple geographic regions and multiple different service managers. But there is a change coming. I will not state what the change is when it comes to the V35 FTS Type 21. There is a change coming. Toyota Japan is involved in said change. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, including myself, Toyota Japan has actually been supporting the recall by sending a certain number of short blocks to Alabama in order to offset some of what they haven't been able to build themselves. So, but there is a change coming.
New parts or
new parts. I won't say what parts, but there are new parts coming. And let's just say at the end of October of 2024, there was somebody very high up within Toyota that traveled to Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Alabama. And shortly thereafter, the first week of November 2024, there was a quality control meeting at Alabama where they discussed what they were going to do to try to resolve this issue. What I can tell you is based off of the information shared with me, both being typed to me as well as pictures shared with me, the cleaning of the debris issue wasn't actually fully resolved until November of last year. And so I know what Toyota has shared with NHTSA. It's a CYA. They are completely covering their butt when it comes to that. They are not being 100% forthright with the consumer nor with the government. And I can't wait for the part number to change so I can show everybody, hey, there was an actual update. Not just number 1, number 4 main bearings that happened in late April, early May of 2024. Like that happens all the time. I could go show you the 3UR and how many times they updated bearing numbers. And the other thing too, people make me laugh. Like one of the biggest things that I've seen lately is like, hey, there needs to be a bearing tang or a bearing locator for the mains. And there's your V35A rod and piston, right? Like this piston's awesome, man. It's got, gas ports and everything. It's got a really nice coating on the side. It is side specific, but like this bearing does not have a tang on it. And guess what? The 3UR doesn't have a tang on it. Never has. And the 3UR has tighter bearing tolerances than the V35A. And the 3UR spec to 20W50 in Mexico. So like for people to say that you can't run 5W30 or 10W30 in the V35A is comical. And I'm just not a big fan of 0W20. Like all of our cars call for it, and I run 5W30 and motor's quieter. It's just a much better thing for me anyway.
So the 2026 is, you're saying basically that these parts aren't going to be really in the Tundra until probably 2026?
I would say, yeah, you're looking at probably April, May of next year. Like there's just no way for them to get it done that quickly, especially because of what's already happened, right? So, and
the potential of so the recall covers up through 2023. We knew there were 2024s failing all over the place and some 2025s. So now it's confirmed sort of that there was probably debris issues up until November of 2024. So that's not, not as bad, but
yeah, the other piece of that puzzle is, from what I've been told, Toyota's not really good about traceability. Like they just could,
because they've never had to.
Well, honestly, probably. The discussion that I had with my family member when I was in Indiana for a funeral was Nate could probably answer just as well as my family member did, but there's probably three possibilities. There was a process that changed, and because that process changed, we now have engine failures, which we've never really had in the past, right? T-Mall, Alabama, they built the 3UR. They built it since it was introduced and the Tundra was being produced in 2007 in Princeton, Indiana. Alabama was still producing those motors. So then we switched to Texas, and I can't remember what year it switched. I guess 2007 is when it switched, but like Alabama was building motors for Tundra and Sequoia this whole time. And then we switched to a V6 and suddenly we have issues. And oh, by the way, people, the Tacoma and Landcruiser, the T24A FTS, they're also experiencing engine failures, like before their first oil change. It's just not that big a deal because the Tundra and Sequoia have kind of taken the cake when it comes to engine failures. So Toyota's just not the Toyota of old. That's really what it comes down to. So one, it's either a process. Two, the metallurgy of the metal changed. Well, something could have changed there. We don't know. I'd have to go find a 3UR block and have it tested against my V35A block that I have. And the third thing is the workforce changed. Like the workforce completely changed during COVID. Like according to people that know about it, Toyota before COVID had 15 plus years. That was the average for one of their factory workers. Post COVID, it's 2+ years. So
wow, that's not good.
Your workforce is just completely different. And even my family member said Stellantis saw the same thing. Like the workforce completely changed after COVID. So the other piece of it too is a lot of this was designed during COVID. Like the 3rd gen Tundra was supposed to be a 2021 model year, and they delayed it a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, I respect everybody that works for Toyota. I know they're working hard. Like I made a post and somebody said, "Are you being facetious?" And I was like, "No, I genuinely want them to do great work." But at this point, we're into our 5th year of the 3rd gen Tundra, and we're still having engine failures.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they can't seem to figure out how to program a transmission to save their life, which that's where I go, okay, Nate, like, have you looked at a Toyota 10-speed, at an Aisin 10-speed? Is there something going on mechanically, not in programming, that's causing, I don't know if you know this, Nate, but they've issued two TSBs for hesitation/throttle lag. Like, I can't tell you how many times I myself almost got into an accident because I was at a stop and I went, well, I can make this. And I'd mash the throttle and it'd just sit there. Like, well, I guess I'm going to get T-boned today because my truck doesn't want to move. And then suddenly it would lurch forward and go. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Like,
You want to know why that happens?
I would.
So I fixed that problem in the 6-speed Aisins, and I'm now looking into it in the 10-speed Aisins, and it appears to be the same problem. So many of the shift valves use something that's called a boost valve. In fact, do you guys have 2 seconds for me to just go grab them?
Yeah.
All right. Here.
I do.
So boost valve sleeve.
Yep.
You might see there's some holes in it, and I'll get to what those are. And then you have the boost valve. Now, this is an aftermarket copy of the factory valve. So the factory valve looks identical. So the way this works is you see one orifice goes all the way through, and one has the valve inside. You can see the black valve inside.
Now, this is the boost valve for an Aisin 6-speed.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, and the ones in the 10-speed look almost the exact same to the untrained eye. The average person would not see the difference. So the orifice that goes all the way through, a retaining clip goes in there. It's actually a dead circuit for oil. There's no oil in there. Now, the second hole, where you can see the edge of the valve is in there, and you see the valve sitting in the sleeve. What happens is pressure goes inside this hole and moves that valve in this direction. And as it moves the valve in that direction, it changes the amount of pressure sitting on a spring that has a shift valve behind it.
Right.
Well, a common area for these to wear out is around the bore here. And so what happens is the pressure that is used to turn that valve on or to move that boost valve starts to leak to where the spring is at, where it's not doing anything. And when this happens, it can trigger the transmission to mechanically not go into gear when the computer is trying to command it to go into gear. Right. And so this can trigger a delay and then a bang or a downshift clunk or any sort of common shift concern. The most common cause for that is this component. And then secondarily, the accumulation and dampening system that we designed, obviously, solutions for that too. Billet, they've got seals on them. I changed the spring rates, but that is the most prevalent cause for the symptom you're describing in all of the Aisin 6 through 10 speeds.
Interesting. So are you talking about the AB60 that's in the previous gen Tundra, or all 6 speeds?
This specifically is out of an A466ND, which is a Nissan
Okay.
Titan.
Yeah.
The same sort of stuff exists in the AS66RC in the Ram 35 through 5500 cab and chassis, and then the AS69RC used in all of the high output 6.7 liter turbo diesel Cummins from 2013 to 2024. But that sort of intellectual property exists in many, many, many modern Toyota/Aisin transmissions, which, as you understand, are essentially the same thing.
So while I was in Indiana, I went up to Ann Arbor and tried to find the wide body Tundra.
Good luck.
Was not successful, but I didn't realize that right next to the Toyota R&D that there is an Eisen office. So literally they're across the street from one another, which tells me absolutely it's a Toyota transmission.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Marketed differently.
Just so you guys know, Aisin, and I want to make sure that I publicly shame everybody who is a part of this organization. Aisin, if you go on the Alliance for Automotive Innovation's website, which is they call themselves a lobbying firm, or well, that's what everybody calls them. I think they use the term think tank or research organization. I don't know. The bottom line is they're a lobbying firm. Okay. Aisin is a huge member. And in fact, they're so proud of this that when you go on the AAI's website, Aisin is one of the first people they show you as a proud member. So I don't believe that Aisin or Toyota have pure intentions. I understand that their brand has accumulated a huge amount of consumer trust and goodwill over the past, maybe 40, 50 years. They really have. But I think that some of their most recent behavior has put them in the wrong direction. And I think it's diminishing a lot of people's trust in what Toyota and Lexus stood for when they came to the Western markets. And to be honest, if there's anybody I want to blame on top of them, because everyone is accountable for their own behavior at the end of the day, the other people that definitely need a spanking would be the regulator cartel. So this would be your NHTSA, EPA, DOT, the California Air Resource Board. These criminal organizations, in my opinion, they're putting pressure on these guys to keep redesigning engines to make them cleaner, when in reality, I would argue that there was nothing wrong with the 4.7 liter V8. I would argue that there was nothing wrong with the 1JZ, the 2JZ, the 22RE. These are outstanding engines for the most part. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're amazing. And those engines could be in cars today, but these regulatory criminal enterprises won't allow them to do that. And I believe that's an affront to consumer freedom and your right to choose whatever vehicle you want to drive.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned. So I had a non-turbo. That was my first Supra in high school, and somebody on Super Forums came up with a way to delete the EGR without it causing an issue with check engine light.
Love it.
Literally doing 80 in that car, I would get almost 30 miles a gallon.
Nice.
With the EGR deleted. And you're going, really? Yeah, it was a 94 with 150,000 miles on it. I took it to Indiana when I was in high school, and I legitimately got 30 miles a gallon in a 94 Toyota Supra in 2002 with the EGR deleted. And you just go, like, why did we ever get rid of that motor emissions? Like, because people were worried about what was coming out of the tailpipe. And it's like, guys, like, that's the least of our concern right now. Like,
it made Al Gore happy.
Well, do you not realize that plants feed on that stuff? Like, that's their food. So, hello.
So, I think, I've said this so many times. These companies had reliable engines, and the regulators made them take them away. So, for example, Ford, the company that now cannot get their nose above water with the 1 liter EcoBoost. Yeah. Ford is the same company that designed the big block. What is that? I think it's a 460 I have in that vehicle. Don't quote me, at 454. I don't know. I'm having a brain fart. But my point is, it's a big block Ford. There's
Yep.
barely any moving parts. It's pretty much just rods, bearings, crank, cam. I mean, there's nothing crazy in there. You don't have all this emissions craziness. That engine will go forever as long as you change the oil. New
Yep.
cars are not designed for reliability. And I know you guys know this, but many people viewing may not. The real money in the automotive industry now, if you take software and data out of the equation, is in service and repair. And that's why they're trying to manipulate the cost of ownership to a higher figure. And the other thing is, the harder it becomes to maintain that vehicle, the more likely you are to purchase a new one. And then the consumer life cycle starts all over again. And, some consultants that they hire to come in there and tell them sweet nothings all day and pillow talk them probably told them, and I know this is exactly the kind of conversations they have. They bring these consultants in who tell them, hey, you really got to get people back in the dealership every 3 to 5 years. You're missing out on income, and they engineer a strategy to where having a car past that just becomes a nightmare. And they want you to feel bad psychologically for having a used car. This is part of why they put years on cars. Nobody says, hey, this is a sofa. It's a 1986, whatever it is. Nobody uses jargon like that. That's almost exclusively a car thing. I mean, think about iPhones. Why do they always have a new iPhone? So you feel bad about not having the new one. And this sort of manipulative BS is basically fad culture, but for the automotive industry. And the worst part is that if we still had cars that for Toyota had the 1JZ or 2JZ or the 4.7 V8, I forget the nomenclature for it, but
The one
if
UZ.
yeah, the one user. Yeah. So if you had one UZs, if Chevrolet still had LS3s, if all these companies would go back to their greatest hits. I mean, how respectable was Nissan when they were putting RB26s and everything?
Yep.
I mean, I was having a
Yeah,
conversation.
Another 30-year-old motor that people are still developing parts for.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the 2JZ of Nissan. And
Yep.
look at Nissan today. The entire brand is about dead. It's been on life support for years. They're a heartbeat away from bankruptcy at any given moment. They don't have enough cash on hand to be a healthy business. Nissan had every opportunity to be an amazing Japanese brand, and they got ran into the ground by poor leadership. And reliability was a huge portion of that. Jatco transmission warranties were a huge portion of that. These companies don't understand that this greedy, short-sighted 3 to 5 year consumer life cycle behavior is part of what's killing them. It's part of the reason they can't return wealth to their shareholders. And the worst part is that who's pressuring them to come out with all this garbage? The CVT Jatco transmission, the 1 liter EcoBoost. Why are they coming out with things like this? Because the regulator cartel has a gun in their back to do so. It's painful. It's disturbing. I think it's morally wrong. And I disagree with the way the automotive industry is ran. And I feel like anybody on the inside or even close to it also feels that way.
Yeah, it's the same premise of financing, right? Like you can have a 10-year note now. So basically you will forever have a car note because vehicles are so expensive that you can't afford a monthly car payment unless you do a 10-year car note, which is
That's so nuts.
it's crazy to me. Like so I look out the window and I have my first vehicle ever. It's a 99 Ford Ranger, right? I blew the
Great
motor
car.
up at 230,000 miles, put the 4-liter single overhead cam in it from the '01 Ranger. It's a 99. That thing leaks oil out of everywhere and it'll start no problem and run really, really well. Even with oil leaking out of everywhere, it just needs rebuilt. It's got 413,000 miles on it, but it's just one of those things where like my Super that I bought in high school, it was a 94 non-turbo automatic, black over tan. I think when we bought it, it had 80,000 miles on it and we paid 15 grand for it. And it's still on the road today. Like I could go run the VIN and find it, but it's like, that won't happen. Like the last vehicle that I know that will do that is the Sequoias that we have, my mom's GX and our Tundra, because they're V8s, they're tried and true. They'll run forever as long as you take care of them.
I was going to say this is why I try so hard to educate the public, is because I see stuff like this and I truly, and we talked about this at work, a little bit. I truly believed that everybody had some idea what I was talking about and what Mr. RG's talking about. I thought this was common knowledge, and maybe not the super intimate transmission stuff, but like just the corruption in general.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing, how many thousands of people, comment on videos like this, and they're like, I didn't know this was going on. This is groundbreaking. This is shell-shocking information to me. And it compelled me to keep exposing more of this criminal mischief that takes place in this industry. And when I use words like cartel and cult and criminal, people are like, Nate, that's kind of crazy that you're calling these guys cartels. Like, how are they not? They're in bed with regulatory bodies. They're constantly finding a way to weasel out of things in the judiciary. They have a
Yep.
near monopoly on resources and capital in their respective industries. They get whatever they want by paying their way to the end.
Yep.
5-step takedown, they'll sue people. There's people like Stanley Meyer, who are now dead because, in my opinion, they had a good idea. This is the kind of culture that exists in the automotive industry. And I really think this is one of the issues of our times, is that we live in a nation where cars are intertwined with our culture and our economy. And there is so much corruption here and flagrant dishonesty. And people just don't understand. And I think everybody needs to know these things. I really do.
Yeah, I don't. So you probably don't know this, but I was sent a cease and desist in August of 2023 by Toyota because I had posted TSBs to tundras.com.
Well, I would have wiped my rear end with it and certified mailed it back.
Well, so I responded to him and said, hey, all the threads have been taken down. Well, the owners of tundras.com, hey Bob, that's supposedly his name. It's his username anyway on the forum. And all the other ones, Colorado TJ, and I could go on and on with all the different mods. Well, they run forerunners.com and tacomaworld.com. Well, there's an 8-year-old thread on tacomaworld.com that you can go download the Tacoma shifting calibration. Like, they issued a TSB. Somebody uploaded all of the calibrations for all the different trim levels. And to this day, if you join tacomaworld.com, you can go download that calibration. Well, that in and of itself is against everything that you would sign up for if you're using TIS. Well, all I was doing was posting the TSB and what the title was and what it was about. And then once it hit NHTSA, I would go download the PDF and do a screenshot of the first page and upload it to the thread just so people could see it. And then I would link it to NHTSA. So I get a cease and desist. Well, what the cease and desist was actually about, it had nothing to do with TSBs. I know what the Dinsmore letter, which is a law firm out of Cincinnati that sent me the letter for Toyota. Like, I'll name you. I don't have a problem naming the legal firm that you used. I was told by somebody within Toyota that Toyota Legal was going to get involved and send me a cease and desist. And the reason was I leaked the 1794 limited edition Tundra 2 months before they were going to reveal it at the State Fair of Texas here in Dallas. Well, I did. That was a Friday. It was July 12th, I think, is when it was released. And by Monday, I'd been sent a message by this person that said, hey, you pissed off every executive in the building because you released the 1794 limited edition stuff. And I was like, hey, man, it was publicly available. I've got a web scraper that looks for changes. And I found it and posted what it was about. And come to find out, it wasn't actually even supposed to be publicly released until September. But whoever posted this and where I got it from flagged it as public. So somebody within Toyota that posted it was actually the person and the reason that I found it, because they flagged the post incorrectly. It wasn't that I went searching and digging. It was like it popped up. I saw it, figured out all the information, made notes about it. And then 2 hours later, after I found it, it was gone. I just happened to find it when it was posted. And so it's one of those things where, like Toyota, you have so many things wrong in official pricing documents, in tech specs. Like I was chatting with somebody from Southeast Toyota, and they said, hey, I called brand engagement today, and they told me that this particular configuration was not available. Well, sure enough, I just got on Auto Trader and found 10 different trims that had exactly the thing that he was asking for, but yet brand engagement said it wasn't something that was available. So it's like, hey, Toyota, like, I really am a fanboy. Like, I'm never going to own another manufacturer unless I actually need like a 1-ton truck. And at that point, like, I'll probably end up buying a GM based off of everything that I know about Ford and Stellantis product. And I'll just call up Nate and say, hey, I need a kit for my transmission to fix that part of it. But
man,
the Duramax is a great motor, in my opinion, based off of what I know. It's everything behind it that there's issues with, which you've solved now. And so for Toyota to preach, like all they preach, right, is QRD, quality, reliability, and durability, and Kaizen, continuous improvement. And I'm going, you literally have specs in your official pricing sheet on pressroom.toyota.com that have been wrong for 3 years. For 3 years.
The seats still break. The volume knobs still break.
Like, you can't even get a document right.
Yeah.
And it's a simple fix. It's 2 letters. Like, it took them 9 months to fix a specification that was wrong on their website. When I called them out publicly with the screenshot and said, hey, you just updated the website for the 2025 Tundra and you've got a spec wrong. And I'm just some schmo. Like, I'm nobody special. People on tundras.com or on the Facebook groups will be like, you just think your stuff doesn't stink. And it's like, no. I am very gifted in detail. That's just my gifting. My gifting is looking at the details, and I'll see stuff that other people don't. And that's just who I am. And so if I see it, I'm going to point it out to you. It's kind of like Wavemaker. I knew Wavemaker was coming at SEMA last year. I didn't know the name of it, but I knew that there was a color coming. Well, so I get DMCA'd twice in the past month because I used a picture from their website.
DMCA. Yeah. That's the way to do it.
And I'm just like, really? Well, and I was telling the car guy, Nate, like, these people are my neighbors. They live within a 5-mile radius of me, and I'm here to help. I'm not here to cause trouble, because you have areas in your business that you just aren't able to see because you're too close to it. And that's really what it comes down to, is you get so close to something, you familiarize yourself with it that you just can't see the forest for the trees. I have friends that work there. I have people that I've purchased cars from that went from the dealership level to the corporate level that I still stay in touch with. They do great work. I'm not saying people at Toyota don't or Lexus don't, but there are things, as you said, the car guide, like, we've got volume knobs still. We've got a volume knob, like $1 of the bill. Like, and you can't get the volume knob right, and you can't get the seat plastic right. Like, I know owners that have broken 8 side pieces on their seat, 8.
And they refuse to update it.
Well, you've updated it, but then, like, you won't even replace the one that broke. That's the updated part. And then people are having to spend $75, which I'm thankful that it's only $75. But, like, you shouldn't have to spend your own money to fix something that Toyota, who is a multinational corporation, should be able to figure out in a week. Like, it can't be that hard to 3D print something and put it on the seat. And I'm a big dude. I'm 6'3", 275. Like, I'm a big guy. You've got a guy on your team that is bigger than me. There are 2 engineers on the Tacoma and Tundra team that are bigger than me. Did you not test it with them? Like,
yeah,
it's just comical to me that some of this stuff is still happening 5 years down the road. I just want to help. I get so many messages on Facebook that are like, hey, I didn't want to post this publicly in the group, but I'm going to reach out to you and ask for help on this. And it's like, absolutely, I'm here to help. That I'm here to be a servant. I'm here to serve my fellow human well and help where I can. And if Toyota doesn't like that I'm here to help, and they don't want to, like, I've told them in my own videos, if anybody has seen them, hey, if you want to NDA me, just hire me. I'll sign an NDA and stop talking.
Dude, you know what I get a kick out of? So it is normal for big companies to have blind spots in their systems and to have imperfections. And now, I'm not on Toyota's scale, but we're a pretty big operation. And, excuse me, And nobody's perfect, not us, nobody. And you know what I've done over time, and this, if Toyota's watching this, which I'm sure they are, they're probably, punching the air. Here's what I'll tell people. I have been in, on a smaller scale, Toyota's situation where, like, despite everyone's best efforts, like there was a typo on a drawing and now you have 1,000 parts that are 1,000th too big. Like stuff like that just happens. And here's what you do. Yeah, here's what you do. And I've done this and it worked out good for us. And this is what Toyota should do. Your best consultants are people that actually already like your product and just want it to be as good as they believe it can be.
100%.
And yeah, and so what I've done over time is I can think of a guy named Morgan, okay, good buddy of mine. We were in the Marine Corps together. And I told him, I was like, he was like shocked that we had become such a big operation because I went off the radar for so long.
Yeah.
And I ended up sending the guy a bunch of stuff and I wanted his honest input. And I took his input extremely seriously. And he's not an engineer or anything, but he's just a guy that likes cars and trusts our product. And I basically, I don't want to say used because, he was very happy to work with us, but I used that, to be honest, as consulting information. And, anytime we get someone who's like, hey, I'm a huge next gen fan. I think that you guys have something you might not know about that's going on with this part or that part. Like on the first 100, I'm just being honest with people. I don't care. The first 100 Post Elite kits that we manufactured for the 8L90, there was a line of the program missing, and one of the holes, which fortunately is not necessary for it to work, wasn't there. And most people were just drilling the hole and not telling us. And it's to fit over a dowel so it can fit on there. And we didn't know about this because the one that we made as a prototype worked completely fine. And so somebody eventually called us and said, hey, I'm a big fan of your guys' stuff. I use your guys' stuff in everything. You can look me up. I've got, several previous orders. Like I'm a huge next gen guy, but are you guys aware that this is going on? I had no effing idea. Yeah. And no sooner did this guy call me, we pulled the drawings, we added the hole, we found out that the reason it wasn't there is somebody tweaked the drawing, some BS happened. And that is a human experience. And so what we did is we reached out to anybody that we thought even got one of the ones missing a hole. And most people were like, look, I don't care. It's not a big deal. But like we'd refund the shipping or, and it cost us maybe $10,000. Dude, that's a couple hours of being here. We don't care. We wanted people to trust us. And Toyota could do that right now. Toyota could reach out to the people that love Toyota, like, however many people love next gen. And they could say, I want you guys to be honest with me. If we're screwed in some way, if there's somewhere where we're falling short, tell us. And they would do that for a tenth of the price of these ridiculous consultants. 100%. Yeah, you could give these guys, $2,000 a week instead of $2,000 a day or $2,000 an hour, and they would help you way more than the eggheads can. And that is what you should be doing as an OEM, is collaborating with the people that actually love your brand rather than trying to give them the 5-step takedown like you're describing. I don't know if you saw my content about that, but that's what they did to you, and they got to step 1 and it worked.
The crazy thing is I worked for Apple for 5 years, and we go to what they call Apple Core. So when you work in a retail environment, they kind of train you like, hey, this is what's expected. This is how we give feedback, and they call it fearless feedback, right? So that's how I operate. I operate in the space of, I know I'm imperfect. I know there are areas that I can improve as a brother, as a son, as a friend. I'm not married, but when I'm a husband, it's like, hey, you can improve in this area as a husband, as a father. It's the same thing, right? Like there are many TSBs that I have a note for every time I took my truck in for service and what I had my service advisor type up. And multiple of those notes became TSBs, which I'm thankful for that they became TSBs, because I know I wasn't the only one experiencing it based off of what people were saying on the forum or on Facebook. So that's where, much like we're talking about the seat plastic or the volume knob, how are we this many years into this and we haven't solved this issue? Like legitimately, because then the Tacoma was included for the volume knob because they were using the same knob. So it's like, hey guys, like we've got an issue here. So then we've got the throttle lag and hesitation. Well, then the GX550 gets released, and guess what? It has way worse throttle lag and hesitation than the Tundra and Sequoia have ever had. to the point that people are having to go in every 3,000 to 5,000 miles to have the TCM learning reset in order for it to actually shift correctly. And now we're at a year since they literally issued a tech tip to technicians to say, hey, we're aware of this, we're working on it, and we're a year down the road and we still don't have resolution to it. Same thing goes for the GX550, getting confused as whether it's day or night. And then the infotainment is in light mode at night and dark mode during the day. And they're like, hey, we're working on a software update, and we're a year down the road, still no software update.
You know, what was telling to me was this on the recall when Toyota went through the investigation, and they got all the way to February 2024 to May. And they said, as part of the investigation, the recovered parts, you know, they looked at the recovered parts from bad engines, and then they began collecting teardowns of good engines.
Yep. And
to me, that I can't prove that it's true, but you're kind of saying something on this that proves it's true. I think that new parts are coming. Yep. I think they got to a point where they decided this isn't all debris. And why would you be tearing down new engines? And then they were finding in the engines that were working that the bearings were also on their way to failure. They just weren't there yet.
Yeah, I think just based off of what I've seen from teardowns and different things and conversing with service managers and people that have built engines, I had a short conversation with the car care nut about, hey, I'll bring you my motor. You don't have to give me any money for it. I'll bring it up to you in Chicago and you can tear it down on video. That hasn't ever happened. He's stopped responding to me for whatever reason. And
really?
Yeah, I think kind of like Nate has talked about, you know, he does get cars to review from Toyota and Lexus.
Mm-hmm. So, that'll do it.
I had mentioned in one of my videos and in a post that, like, hey, I was going to take it up to him and let him tear it down so he could show everybody. And then it just, you know, it's a very robust block. What I will tell you is that the cylinder walls are thicker on a 2GR than they are on the V35A. And it's a non-boosted motor. It's one of the most reliable V6s that Toyota has ever used. Like, the 2GR is a tank. Like, it'll take a beating and keep on ticking. That's what was in the GS350 that I had. And literally at 150,000 miles when I gave that car away, that still getting great gas mileage. You can beat the ever-loving crap out of it in 100-degree Texas heat, and it just kept on ticking. So that's where, like you said, the car guy, like, there's language that they used in their defect information report that does not add up. Like, as you said, why would we tear down a motor that we know is good? And we're pretty sure that we have resolved the debris issue. Why would we tear it down? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, they were doing bearing tests on those good ones, and they were taking them, you know, and doing bearing tests and deciding whether or not the bearings were actually made of the proper material and within spec. And I mean, they were being thorough, but
yeah. So on that note, Lake Speed Jr., the motor oil geek, he actually had a member from Tundra's email him. He didn't post this, the member on Tundra's did, but he's like, I would sure hope that Toyota isn't, I can't remember the metal, but I would sure hope that Toyota isn't using that metal in their bearing, because it's known that ZDP eats it. And you're going, okay, so do we have an additive package that's eating bearings because Toyota didn't spec the bearing properly?
You wouldn't think.
You sure wouldn't think, but I'm also of the belief that there's no way that they didn't have a failure during testing and development. There's just no way.
So what I'm curious about is, how is it that cars that were designed, once again, I'll say, engines that were designed on grid paper by people who did not have access to a computer were somehow an order of magnitude more trustworthy? And once again, I would say it's A, the scalability of mass manufacturing, but B, the regulator cartel.
Yeah.
If they were still selling 2JZs and, you know, 1UZs, like, they wouldn't be in this situation. I'm very confident in that. And the other thing is, if what Toyota is claiming is true, if the problem is that there's debris in the blocks from when they're originally manufactured, Well, how many seconds of production time would it add to the line to rotate the engine 720 degrees, not 360? Obviously, you want all 4 strokes, right? Rotate the engine 720 degrees in bore scope for material. And if there's material in the engine, it's an automatic QC failure, goes back to production. I mean, I just don't understand what's so complicated about this. Like,
Me either.
these companies, this is what I really don't understand. These companies, it takes them years to even try to do something about issues. And quality control is just part of running any significantly sized operation.
Yep.
I deal with quality control all the time. And whenever we find something that's subpar, it's an immediate stop. Okay. It's an immediate check everything on the shelves. Right.
Yep.
We were realizing that regular CNC lathe could not accurately hold tolerance on some of the newest products that were coming out. So we paused producing them. And, I went out and spent $500,000 on a screw machine that you can offset down to 100,000th of an inch so that we could do it correctly. I just don't understand why they can't do this. This is little old next gen here in America, home of the cheeseburger, right? These people are in.
It's the difference between turning a 26-foot boat or a large tanker. That's really what it comes down to is you have the ability to change quickly, whereas there's so many things that they have to go through and legal's involved for sure. That's why the Tundra doesn't have tow hooks, as legal said, no, it's a liability. We're not putting tow hooks, but yet you come out with an official accessory that puts tow hooks. Like, okay, guys, that makes 100% sense to me, because like, what?
Yeah.
So to your point, Nate, there's a process. There has to be a process that's changed, and there's something that they tried to automate that they shouldn't have automated, such as inspecting a block for debris, for burrs, for what I called hanging chads when I originally posted it. I don't know if you've seen the pictures that I took of the block.
They were crazy.
I don't know how some of this stuff got past somebody's naked eye, let alone like.
And this is on a new block?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you happen to have those pictures? What you're describing to me is so nuts, because
you are right.
It's nuts. Yeah, because I have either myself or my master tech that runs production inspects every transmission before a pan goes on it. And I'm just thinking logically, like, I manage quality control at a smaller scale, and the kind of stuff you're describing would never, ever, ever, ever leave my business. It's just crazy, man. Like, I understand stuff happens at scale with every business, but some of this stuff is just, it's so absurd that I can't imagine that in my own, estimation, somebody just didn't choose not to do something or choose not to inspect something. And when you look at how long these things occur for, how does it happen for this period of time and nobody intervenes? I understand the logic of turning around a bigger boat, but on the flip side, just remember that bigger boat has proportionately more resources. You know 100%. What I mean? Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, 100%. So this is the main oil pump feed into the block, meeting the block. So there's 2 holes meeting, and you can see, like, that's a terrible job. It's just terrible. So the bottom circle, can you pull up the picture that's got the end of my pinky? But I can reach in and feel the debris that you're about ready to see. I don't understand how this went on for 3 years.
Yeah, this one?
Yeah.
This is on an unused engine.
100% unused. I could give you the block number if Toyota wants to know, because I've never shared the actual block number.
So just so people,
November 17th, 2022, by somebody at Toyota, Alabama, with the initials SH.
So just so people know how avoidable this is, there's something called deburring in manufacturing, and it's its own process. It's a whole process. And everything that we make on a mill or anything like that gets deburred. And it's a process where we go through with a special tool and basically polish your edges and remove things like this. It takes a little extra time, but we don't have things going out with metal shavings in them. That's almost unheard of here. So this is simply somebody not doing their job, or worse, somebody not creating a task where deburring is requisite. So that's 100%. Painful. Yeah, the fact that was able to leave Toyota. If somebody told me that was BMW or something, I'd be like, yeah, of course it was. I don't doubt that. But the fact that that's Toyota is pretty shocking. I mean, not in 2025, but just how far we've fallen is wild.
I mean, it's pretty shocking to me, even in 2025. Like, this was 22 that this block was produced, but even then, like, it's shocking to me just simply because that's not something. The other crazy thing, Nate, is I only paid $450 for the block. There's a freight liquidator in Kansas City that was selling 7 of them, and I just watched the eBay auction, and then it popped up at $450, and I was like, done. I'm buying it and driving up there, put it in the back of my Tundra, and drove it home, and then put it on an engine stand, and it's been on the stand ever since. But the engine number is A131840. So if Toyota wants to know the block number, that's the block number that I have. And yeah, it was assembled by, SD is the initials of the technician. But like, it has the Z drive address of where it's shared on the network at the plant. That's the other funny thing.
The best thing Toyota could do is give you a really, really, really generous consulting job. Truly, it would pay for itself by orders of magnitude. This is what I don't understand. Yeah, this is what I tell OEMs.
I can't even get an oil change job at a local Toyota dealership.
What, they don't want to work with you? I mean, listen, dude,
I'm not going to put words in their mouth. I just know that I've applied for a service advisor position, a parts technician, oil change, all of it, sales consultant, all of it. Nothing. Can't even get a call back.
You don't have to tell me because I already know what's going on. So what I can tell you, man, is like I said, like every major company has been in positions like this. The question is, what did you do about it? And when I was in positions like this, I found people that loved our product that were willing to be honest with us. And I let them help us become better. And that's how we figured out doing, I don't know, like, different O-ring materials, deburring processes, like all of the progress we've made in the past 10 years. A lot of that is because consumers gave us feedback. And part of being humble and honest and human is saying, I want to know where I'm imperfect so we can make a better business for everybody. And the fact that all I know is if I was in their position and there was somebody like you that truly loved our stuff, I would be offering you an opportunity. And I've done that before. And it made my business better. And it sucks, but it's part of being a human being. And I'm just shocked that Toyota would rather, from what it sounds like, from what you're describing, blacklist you than give you a consulting job, because you'd be a lot more effective than the people they hire now, clearly.
So the crazy thing is I applied for jobs at corporate that I'm more than capable of doing based off of my experience. And I have a friend that was a 30-year employee, email every hiring manager with a recommendation letter, and I've yet to hear back on any of them. And
they think you're a snake.
Yeah, this is over the course of 2 years. And as somebody said, like, you just know too much and you're too close. And it's like, well, okay, so if you quote unquote know too much and I'm too close, why don't you just hire me? Like, I'd much rather just give you the feedback and you be able to do something about it and not do it publicly, then great.
God,
as you said, it would cost them way less money. Way less money. I've known that Wavemaker wasn't going to actually make it to production because they have paint issues. So there's 2 issues. They can't get the 4 models that are going to carry it to match. And the last corrosion layer is turning what is essentially a mint blue yellow. Like literally when it cures, the paint's now yellow. And it's like, hang on a second. You released this color 3 months ago, 90 days ago, something like that. I can't remember when that press release was, but it was earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to turn on the production line and suddenly you have paint issues. How does that work?
Test.
Well,
they did, because I know the day that they tested it. I posted it on Facebook because somebody in the know told me, hey, we just ran our first batch of Wavemaker. And then Larry Chin did his video right with Haggerty and showed the
I saw that, yeah.
Well, the four trucks that they had at Headquarter Confidential were originally white, and they were painted locally here in McKinney, Texas by Complete Customs. they weren't even done in a factory setting. They were done by a custom auto body shop, well, a custom shop that builds a lot of stuff.
Is this the problem they had, do you think, with their engines? I go back to like what you said. There's absolutely no way they didn't have an engine problem in testing unless they built these like by hand for their test products.
Essentially the block of the V35A FTS Type 17 that's in the LS500, the block is essentially the same. There's a few differences because it's going in a car and the oiling's a little different because of the depth of the oil pan and all of that. But the block is essentially the same. They had failures in that before it was ever introduced in the Tundra. So that's where I go like, hey guys, you knew you had an issue, but yet did you not investigate it because you only sell 5,000 LSs a year?
Yeah.
Right. You only sell, I have the number, but it's very little compared to the Tundra where they're producing, 5,000 a week or whatever they do down there.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, TMTX only works on a Monday through Friday schedule. They do not work weekends for anybody that cares to know.
And the craziest part about all this is that the GM and Ford and Ram, people trust them so little that they still buy the Tundra, even with these issues. And that's my worry, is that you look at the sales numbers, they're not being punished.
They're not. And part of it's the incentives,
I was just going to say.
When you can get, I talked to a guy named Jim. He's in the Tundra group and he's a broker. Literally, I said, hey, this is the Tundra that I'm looking for in 2026. And he was like, yeah, they'll be way cheaper if you wait until, May or June of next year. And he's like, I can probably get you $8,000 to $10,000 off sticker. And they're still making money. Don't kid yourself. Like even at that discount, dealerships and Toyota are still making money. It's just very interesting to me that based off of my picture, right, they have way more information than I do internally. But you've got a block that, again, some schmo purchased off of eBay and found the debris, and yet we're still having engine failures 3 years after I bought that block. Like, what gives, guys? Like, it can't be that hard to figure out.
It's not a high enough percentage to matter.
Well, that, and then people don't realize all the motors that are built at Alabama. All the Tacoma T24A FTSs are built in Alabama and shipped to Mexico. Like, so I'm going, is there a process issue here? The other interesting thing, I can't remember his name, but right as the Tundra was being introduced and the V6 turbo was being introduced, the president of Alabama changed. So I'm not saying anything about that person. It's just interesting when you line up timelines of certain changes that happen with leadership and then issues come. I know, causation doesn't equal correlation, but in this case, it's hard not to think that because there's leadership change and then suddenly we've got issues when we didn't previously have issues with engines coming from this plant.
Do you think they're going to expand the recall?
I don't see how they can't. I know of multiple dealers across the U.S. that have 23s that are not included in the recall and 2024s, both Tundra and Sequoia, sitting on the lot waiting on short blocks. It's a 6 to 8 week wait on a short block, let alone they can't build the same number of non-hybrid Tundras because Alabama doesn't have the capacity to expand and cover the recall motors. That's why initially we had 4 phases for the recall. It's now expanded to 7. And as of the last update, they didn't actually give you a month that the next batch was coming. They gave you Q3 of this year, which will end in September. So I'm fully expecting that they're going to keep pushing some of these motors because it was said to me, and this is somebody's opinion based off of the information said to them. This is, so people don't take this as the God's honest truth. It's just what was said to me by multiple people. They have a feeling that even recall remedy engines will end up failing. It's just a matter of time and heat cycles. Like
we saw that with GM.
Yeah, they're going to fail.
Well, that's what they did with General Motors. Sorry. I was going to say that That's the same thing that we saw with General Motors, people getting warranty product and then that
Yep.
blew up too, a Ford, same thing with Ford, something under warranty that blows up. Chrysler with the 68 RFE and the P0871 code that I've been shouting from the rooftops how to fix for several years now. And guess what? People got them replaced under warranty and then they had the same problem. These
Yep.
sorts of events are not new. A lot of times what people
Well,
need to
they're new for Toyota.
they are
Mhm.
very, very unlike Toyota.
Yeah.
And if you guys remember what I've said Toyota in recent years is unakin to what we're familiar with them for, right? Like
Yep.
Toyota has always been the brand for the crappy sound system and the kind of anonymous styling, but
They're still crappy.
I know, but it was reliable. And now they're working with JBL. That's a good step forward, and I like Toyota's behavior over the past 5 years has been really shocking, but I'm not surprised. And I said for a long time that I thought this was going to happen because, when I started in the transmission industry, Toyota was, not perfect. No one is, but they were excellent.
Yep.
And we see that diminishing very quickly with time.
Yep.
And like I said, it goes back to my original points. People who hear what I have to say have probably heard me say this 100 times, but for people who are unfamiliar, I'll say it again. Cost cutting, the regulator cartel, all these things together are making it extremely difficult for people that work at these companies in good faith to
Yeah.
make the best products they can because their hands are tied. And another thing people need to know is that engineers don't have agency over the things they create anymore. The
Yep.
financiers and the legal team does. Engineers are usually just being used. It's very uncommon that engineers have any sort of individualistic, creative opportunity. They're told exactly what they need to come up with. And if something is too reliable, that doesn't work out because they want to make money in service and repair. And the other thing is that if you think about Toyota and their obligation to their shareholders, to his point, he was speaking about how, and you too, you were mentioning how the sales numbers don't seem to be going down. Well, I don't know that I would totally trust that. And I'll tell you why. These manufacturers understand that sales figures are the ultimate vanity metric. And so they would rather do 0% financing and they would rather do all these blowout deals and Toyotathon events and all this craziness. The guy in the bear suit jumping around telling you to buy a Toyota. They would rather throttle things like that up to artificially show a positive figure on sales numbers than they would see a loss in sales and tell their board or their shareholders that they're trying to correct the market and address some honest flaws. They just want to see numbers go up perpetually. And that's why a lot of those numbers can't be trusted. They'll cut prices until the numbers go back up. So it's hard to trust the numbers.
Yeah, I think really to your point that part of why we're seeing the sales numbers that we are is the incentives. Like I just, before I got on here, I was like, I'm going to go see what an F-150 is, like a Power Boost F-150 Platinum, like 92 grand before any options. Well,
Painful.
I mean, I can go get a very nicely equipped hybrid Tundra Platinum 4x4 for less than 80. So, and then the incentive gets me under 70. So why would I go, spend 25, 30 grand extra to buy a Ford when I know they have issues too, when I can get the Tundra and know that for the most part, I can't speak for all dealers, but I can speak for my dealer here in DFW. Like they've taken great care of me. Like I've become friends with pretty much everybody at the dealership. They know me by my name when I go in for service. We talk life, we talk family, sometimes politics, but it's one of those things where the incentive is just too great. Like, yeah, even, hey, there's an outside chance I might have an engine failure. Oh, well, I'm not spending 30 grand extra, right? Like the crazy thing to me is they didn't want to fix mine until the recall remedy came out. So it sat at the dealership for a year. So it got to the dealership July 1st, 2024. It did not leave the dealership, even though my buyback was complete October 15th of 2024. It did not leave the dealership until the second week of June this year.
Wow.
And it was repaired October 31st of last year before the remedy was even known to anybody.
Oh man.
So did you say that the four cylinders, the tacos, are having failures? Because I have not seen anything in NHTSA. Nothing.
Yeah, you won't.
Oh, that is not good news. People are gonna freak out over that.
It's very few. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at Tacoma sales versus Tundra sales, it's nearly double, right? So the percentage is way less, but yes, there are. I mean, I know of a Landcruiser with 2,500 miles on it that failed, and that's Japan. That's not even Alabama building that motor. So that
what was the you know the diagnosis?
Yeah, spun main.
Oh, geez. Are these the same debris?
I don't know. That's where it's hard to know. Like, maybe I need to set up an eBay search that shows me those blocks, and if one pops up for cheap, I buy it too. But look, like I've said, I'm a Toyota fanboy. I will not own any other product. I just won't, based off of my relationships that I've built over 30 years of being around, almost 30 years, 24 years since I've driven. I'm 40. So, I just won't, because of the relationships that I have, and because of the inside that I've seen now from Nate, but also just from family. And I grew up in Indiana, so I was around the big three my entire life growing up. All my friends' parents worked either nights or days in one of the plants. And the horror stories, like, yeah, I played cards for 3 hours today. Huh? Yeah, we hit our quota. So we just, we're going to get paid for the 3 hours. So why work? I'm just going to play cards. Huh? Like, how does that calculate?
People think I'm lying when I say stuff like that. It's so crazy. How much stuff have I said where people
from the person doing it? So anybody that thinks that is not true, I can give you at least 20 names of people that were 30-year employees for Chrysler, now Stellantis, but Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, GM. Like, I grew up in the middle of a cornfield in Indiana, and literally I can go to every plant. It's within a 20-minute drive of Delphi, the Kokomo transmission plant. Like, literally, I know all of this stuff from as a kid. Like, it's for real. People would hit their quota and stop working, but still get paid because of union. Like, there's a $5,000 to $7,000 legacy cost on every GM, Ford, or Stellantis product that goes straight to the UAW. So,
do you remember when I said that union labor was the end of healthy car companies? And it's not because I'm against collective bargaining or anything. That's not my issue. Yeah, the issue is that unions have become really just gangs that abuse both the business and the employee who pays to be in them.
Yep.
And they're not to the benefit of the consumer or the company, or in many cases, even the employee. And so I said this, and as usual, there's always, somebody who's just lost in the sauce. That's like, Nate doesn't know what he's talking about. But as usual, people like yourself come out with firsthand experience who are like, no, he's correct. So I've been saying this from the jump. These unions are one of the main reasons that American car companies cannot be competitive in global markets. It's just a damn fact.
So I'll give you a story. So this family member, being that he has the knowledge that he does, won't buy anything American, right? So he went and bought a Honda Accord coupe. This is back late 2000s into the early teens. Drives it to work, parked away from everybody, comes out, and there is crap, like literal human feces, smeared on his car, because union people did not want him driving anything but American. So when people say, like, unions are literally the legal mafia.
Yes, this is what I've been saying. A gang culture.
And I hear these stories weekly from this family member because of what has gone on with the Tundra stuff. Like, as soon as my motor failed, first person I text, and then got the block, showed him that, and he's like, bro, what's going on with Toyota? And I'm like, I can't tell you what's going on with Toyota. I just know that, like, the Car Care Nut just came out with his video on Saturday. The A35A FTS having oil leakage issues already because of their two-piece front cover. And it's like, Toyota, you have these staples that you can go back to that worked. Just do
A lot
that.
of them.
Like there are so many in their processes that if they would just go back to it, things would be better. Like, well, there's an LFA. Did you guys see the LFA post?
Mm-hmm.
There's an LFA in Japan. It's got 175,000 kilometers on it. And all they've done is regular oil changes, tires, and brakes.
And that's with a single clutch transmission. Those are some of the most unreliable transmissions money can buy. And they've got 100-some thousand miles, 175K.
And you're going, how can a supercar that revs to 9,500 RPMs be fine with just regular maintenance? But yet my little old Tundra blows up at 48,000 miles.
The biggest gift that Toyota has been receiving is from General Motors right now. Really, it's been the 6.2 issues, the DFM issues in the 5.3, the transmission problems in Ford and I mean, it's honestly the only stable powertrain right now has been Ram, and their ZF is like, well, Nate has a different opinion on the ZF, but it's like slightly better than General Motors and Ford. So
a little, that 9-speed, its ninth gear is just an locking or unlocking of the torque converter. There is no ninth gear. Like that 9-speed is crap. That's
which 9-speed are you referring to?
The ZF.
Oh, okay. So when you say the 9-speed, do you mean the one that they're putting in the Chrysler Pacifica, or what do you mean?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there is no ninth gear. It's just the locking or unlocking of the torque converter.
Who said? How many times have I said this stuff?
I know that from firsthand knowledge for a person that literally programmed the CNC. So
just so you know, the 948 TE, the ZF9, whatever they're calling it, it's all ZF's intellectual property. Just so you guys know, okay, they took the 8-speed and they made it a transaxle. That's what it is. So if anybody tells you otherwise, that is what it is. There's a lot of mutual intellectual property there. So if you want to see what Dodge is going to experience with the longitudinal units, you should start by looking at what's going on with the transverse units.
Yeah. So another thing, I just got sent a message. Makes me laugh. So do you guys, you probably do, car guy. I'm not sure you do, Nate, but you guys remember when they introduced the TRD performance package? It was SEMA 2023. Right?
Oh, okay.
I don't follow Toyota as closely as some other manufacturers. Yeah.
So it's a 91 octane tune. Peak torque is 400 RPM sooner at 2000 RPM, which has always been on the LX600, which shares the same powertrain. So they introduced it SEMA 2023, and you literally could not get that on a truck until late 2024 model years were being produced. So that to me also signals that they knew that the engine issue wasn't resolved, because they weren't going to put peak torque 400 RPM sooner and literally have somebody grenade a motor with the TRD performance tune on it. So there's just a lot of stuff that I just go, this makes no sense. Like, you aren't making any sense. And then of course, this person that just messaged me is like, what do you do for Toyota?
So November 20.
I work for Toyota. And I don't.
Yeah. So November 24, it's supposedly fixed, maybe heads rolled. But there's part changes coming for 20. So it's still, there's still this weird unanswered thing that the parts will probably answer it for the 2025s that are failing.
Potentially. Yeah.
Because it's a small number.
Yeah, it's such a small number, but 24s, I can tell you, is not a small number, especially because there's a significant amount of Sequoias from 2024 that are failing, which, as Toyota said in their defect information report, like, it shouldn't be an issue because you'll still have motive power from the hybrid unit. Untrue. I know of at least 15 hybrid owners, both Tundra and Sequoia, that have said, no, my motor seized today and I literally couldn't move the vehicle.
Yeah.
So what gives?
How did they get it? Yeah, this goes back to Nate.
I was just reminded of. Nate, I'd like your opinion on this. So a month after they issued the recall, the powertrain manager within Toyota Quality abruptly resigned. What do you think about that?
Well, remember the 5-step takedown. You
No.
never know what happens. No, I'm so serious. You don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't. Nobody does. What I can tell you is that resignation, sometimes they're being bought out. They get paid to resign. So they sign what's called a release of claims. Now, where did you say this was at? The Alabama plant?
No, this was Toyota Quality within Toyota Motor North America. So the quality team that issues TSBs and recalls.
Where are they located?
Plano.
Plano, Texas. Okay, so what's very common in the United States, and especially in the automotive industry, is paying people to sign what's called a release of claims. Now,
Okay.
it's going to be called a severance agreement, but what it really is a release of claims. And it's basically, we're going to pay you to shut up. So this comes bundled with non-disclosure, non-compete. So there's no way he can just go to Hyundai or Kia or Chevy or whatever and just start competing against them. It's usually a really, really aggressive contract. Now, I'm not saying this is what happened here. I'm saying this sounds very familiar, and this is what usually is happening when we see things like this. Somebody's getting bought out, because the reality is if they just fire the guy, he's going to be butthurt and he's going to go tell the entire world and whatever so-called automotive media exists, everything that he knows. So they buy these people into silence through severance agreements, which include a release of claims. And so they feel good about themselves because they got paid to go away. But the reality is what you gave in exchange for that money was any ability to talk about what you experienced. So the reality is that when people resign randomly because of things like that in the automotive industry, they know where the bodies are buried. And that's the reason that they're doing this. People like that are almost always dismissed because of reasons like that.
Said person went to work for Honda immediately.
Well, they definitely didn't get him on a non-compete, and if they did, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going after him. Either that or Honda knows that he wasn't the reason there were quality issues, and they offered him a better income to come work somewhere that at least kind of cares. I think Honda cares a lot more than Toyota does right now, in my personal opinion. But release of claims is very common. And like I said, none of us know what happens behind closed doors, but that timing is so curious that there's no way that that's just organic and random.
Yeah, it was June 25th. So 25 days, basically 26 days after the recall was issued.
I mean, either that or he just really sucks at his job. But usually what you're talking about is usually not a nepotism hire position. Usually nepotism hires are extremely high level stuff. And it's people who are intimated with the board of directors. So I would be really curious to know what happened behind closed doors. I think if any of us could be a fly on the wall, it'd be crazy. But these companies have a history of abusing people who know stuff that they don't want the public to know, when they fear that person might tell somebody. And people who don't believe me should Google the name Faisal, Faisal space Khalaf, Khalaf, Ford Motor Company, Faisal Khalaf Ford Motor Company. So people get abused at these companies en masse whenever they know things that they don't want other people to know. So I'd be very curious.
Yeah, me too. And at the end of the day, like, they're better than the big three at this point, but they're on a very, very slippery slope, in my opinion. Like, just.
Well, it doesn't take much to be better than the big three either, you know. And I was going to say it's a low bar. It makes me think of that Family Guy. I don't know if you guys watch Family Guy. It makes me think of the episode where Peter got a really high-paying job, and they paid some ugly girl to stand next to Meg all day so she looked hotter by comparison. And so when people say Toyota's better than the American big three, which, let us be clear, the American big three is now Fomoco, GM, and Tesla. But they're competing with the world's lowest bar. So I don't think that really means a whole lot, although I wish it did.
Not at this point. Definitely not what it was during the 90s.
No,
Ryan,
no.
Are you thinking about buying a 26 then?
Mm-hmm.
So you trust
I've already
got,
man. Yeah, I've already got. I'll probably buy a Sequoia too. You know, there's opportunity there to improve for them. I've got a lot of product ideas that I know people want, and nobody's come out with it. The good thing is I have a block, and so I've actually had some conversations with different companies about doing a stroker kit or replacing pistons and rods. And I think the open deck, while it's good in a boosted application, it's probably not the best idea. So figuring out a way to get the deck closed where coolant can still flow, but it actually supports the cylinders better, things of that nature. So I've got a lot of ideas in my head and on paper that it just all takes money. But yeah, I'll probably buy a 26. It won't be my primary vehicle, I'll tell you that. I'm keeping my 21 Sequoia TRD Pro until it doesn't run, and then I'm just going to rebuild the motor because
you won't ever have to if you take care of it.
Right. I mean, I just went in 10 days. I went 3,200 miles and averaged 18 miles a gallon at 80 miles an hour with 5W30 in the tank. And people call me crazy, but I just believe in running the higher octane because it's got a better additive package. So, I run 91 at least. People think I'm wasting money, and it's like, hey, it's my money. I'll use it how I want to, but I'm just weird like that because I know that the additive package in premium fuel actually does help with piston ring carbon deposits. Mm-hmm. And so while it might not be fit for it.
Did you see the scoping I did in my 5.7? I scoped some of my cylinders in that 236,000 miles, and I had there's no carbon buildup on the back of my valves. Yeah. And I run crappy 85 octane in that.
Well, when you're at elevation, 85 is okay.
Right.
In Texas, when it's 110 out and your intake air temperatures are what they are, I just feel better with premium gas. And what if it costs me $2 or $3 extra per fill up? I write all of my stuff off anyway. So
the fact that you know everything and you still have this sort of fidelity to Toyota, they really should call you and give you a consulting opportunity, because you're clearly somebody who has organic good faith for the brand that doesn't require paying you. And so that to me is just shocking. I mean, they will spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on these idiot firms to go in there and give them, seriously, they pay some of these giant firms to go in there. Oh man, I forget the name. There's a really big one that does branding. I forget. They worked with Subaru. They're the ones who came up with the name Forester. But there's some huge branding firms. Yeah. I'm forgetting the name, dude. Yeah, because they reached out to us. Yeah. So I told them, I don't have any use for you. I don't need you. My customers don't hate me. So, we don't have these problems. But man, they pay, how much money these people spend. Look at how much money Jaguar spent on a branding firm to tell them how to become the laughing stock of the industry for 8 months. I mean,
it's like Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, what are we upset about? I'm like, they took away what made Cracker Barrel.
The cracker in the barrel. Yeah. So it's just nobody was bothered by this stuff. And this is what I tell people is crazy, is when you spend all this money on these consultants, these guys don't care about you. They're dumb. Huh?
Is it McKinley? McKinsey.
I know it. McKinsey. I think that is.
That's one of the bigger consulting firms, and there's obviously Accenture and a bunch of others.
Accenture. I know Accenture. Yeah. But these people, this is what they do. They get paid millions of dollars to go to these companies and tell them how to suck 1% less, and then they don't do it anyway.
So I have fidelity because I know the people that work there and know them intimately, and know people that have the 30-year employee. Could not speak higher of people within the organization. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people that aren't doing their job well. DEI was a big thing at Toyota, and Robbie Starbuck obviously got a lot of that shut down because of what was happening internally with just the overall culture of Toyota. It was becoming less about producing great cars and more about X, Y, and Z. So at the end of the day, my fidelity is because I know these people and I've known them a long time, and I consider them friends, and I consider some of them family. I'll get sent invites to kids stuff and things of that nature. So I trust these people, and I know that they want to produce the best possible product. But again, as you said, there's legal and then there's product planning, and those two sometimes trump cost. Like, I don't care. Like, we're not doing that because it costs this much extra. And it's kind of like, cool, I didn't ask for massaging seats in my Platinum. So why did you suddenly put massaging seats in the Platinum? Like, who asked for that? I'd love to see the data that you sent out to customers that said, I want a massaging seat. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And you suddenly add $2,500 and another thing that can break. And oh, by the way, all it is an air bladder system. That's all it is, just air bladders. And it somehow is $2,500.
Sounds like the Lincoln Navigator.
Like,
yeah, it's not a massage. It's just these little packets that fill up with air and stuff. You're preaching to the choir for me. Yeah. It's crazy.
So just at the end of the day, yeah, I don't understand. I really just don't understand why a dealership that is its own entity, that I've met the dealership principal for, it's Penske Motor Group. Like, you can go figure out what dealership it is. It's close to me. That's Penske Motor Group, but they sponsor the athletics here in Salina. I live in Salina, Texas, home of the 4A Division I state champion football team. And my dealership sponsors the football team. So, you know, I've just got a lot of inroads and a lot of respect for the people that do the work. The one thing that I find funny is there are Toyota employees in the Tundra group on Facebook that know that what I'm sharing is factual, and they'll laugh at it. That's where I go, you don't want to improve. Like, you just want to try to make me the laughing stock because I'm sharing information that you don't want me to share. Oh, and by the way, like, again, I know this person. I've met this person that people would say or do what they're doing. They tried to say that I had 11 accounts on TIS, and I didn't. I had 2.
They did.
I can
Let me
tell
guess,
you.
they did.
Oh yeah, I mean, they can. I know the 2 accounts that I had, and they banned one of them, and I just signed up for another one, and then they ended up finding that one and banned that one. And it's like, you guys are so funny. As you said, Nate, like, I can help you because I know what's shared with me privately from customers that own your vehicle. And I also know what's shared publicly. I can help you tremendously. And by the way, a new Tundra Chief was just assigned, like a new chief engineer to Tundra for North America was just assigned because Mike Swears is retiring effective September 12th. And as of last week, Wednesday or Thursday of last week, like, there is somebody now in charge of Tundra. And my guesstimation, my opinion is they're literally tasked with solving all of the issues. So it's no longer going to be Sheldon Brown. Sheldon Brown was chief of Tacoma and something else, but it's no longer going to be Sheldon, from what I was told, from somebody familiar with the situation and what they were told.
Some unknown new person.
I don't think it'll be an unknown. It probably isn't going to be somebody that has been quite the face of Tundra like Mike Swears has been, because Mike's been at it since 2010. So you've got 14, 15 years, which, you know, Mike was going to retire 2 years ago. So people are like, I mean, I congratulated him in the Facebook group, and he responded to somebody and said, no, this isn't politics at play. They asked me for 2 years and I gave him 2 years. So he was going to retire in 23.
I can remember, Mike, an interview with him. I don't know if it was with TFL. I remember what made me pause on the new Tundra was when he talked about COVID and their design practices and how they had to completely do everything from home. And it was so different from the way Toyota behaved. And just watching the interview from him talking about the 3rd gen Tundra and how they designed it and how they had to test, I was like, there's no way I'm buying that out of the gate.
COVID certainly put a big wrinkle in Toyota's process. I know that for a fact. There are other aftermarket companies that I've had conversations with that are like, literally, we were going house to house with box trucks for each step of the process. Like, we'd get a process done, put it in a box truck, go to the next person's house that did the next process. So it's crazy to me here in Texas. Where are you at, Nate?
Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania and Colorado. I don't know how you all were, but in Texas, we didn't really shut down.
Well, I was in California during COVID
Okay.
and it was completely
Oh,
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah.
So I received a certified mail letter from San Diego County that we had to shut down.
Yeah. So it's funny. I actually helped a client move home the week that they announced lockdown from California to Dallas. It was, I flew into LAX and I walked out and I was like, is there anybody here? You never do 85 on the 405. And we did 85 on the 405 at
Well,
9 o'clock in the
can't.
morning. It was crazy. I was like, this is really a ghost town.
I've been on the 405 at not even peak hours, and sometimes it's so bad you can just get out and people start smoking cigarettes. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you can't drive on it. And it doesn't matter. There's no way to like buy your way out of the problem. There's people in Ferraris sitting at dead stop traffic. There's no, the toll roads are maxed out. There's always some guy in a BMW who's going 100 with no signal that dies in a fiery explosion. There's always a high speed chase. There's always a guy with no clothing on dangling over the freeway with a machete. Like there's not one day where it's normal. There's not one day.
Yeah. So at this point, we're 3 years post crazy lockdowns and we're still, well, actually probably 4 if we're being honest. They moved to Texas in 17 or 18, Toyota did. So like they had free reign, but they still had some interesting COVID policies within headquarters. But I don't know how Michigan was during that time, but it caused a lot because it's not just Tundra that had issues or Sequoia. The GX is having issues based off of all of this design work gone into body on frame stuff.
The new GX.
Yeah, the GX 550.
What are you hearing with the 550?
Mainly transmission related issues, but I do know that there was a small batch of engines that were snapping timing chains.
Nice.
Oh, geez.
So,
nice.
Very small. It was like 10 or 15, if that. So it must have just been a bad batch of timing chains. That's all I can really muster.
They're about half the size that they used to be.
Well, the car care net talks about that. Like, why are we using bicycle chains in engines?
Yeah. Save a dollar.
The LX, there's been a few failures in the LX, but mainly transmission related things. And I think part of that is, why are we putting more gears? I don't think I ever saw 10th gear in my Tundra, even on flat ground with a tailwind at 75, 80 miles an hour. Rarely hit 10th gear. And even when you put it in sport mode, it won't go over 8th. Just interesting things that you just go, we're doing this because the EPA has said we have to.
Yes. The regulator cartel has demanded it. And a lot of this is to comply with international air regulations. So the European clean air regulations are dramatically more aggressive than the ones here domestically. They're absolutely the worst. And so they're trying to focus on vehicles that can be marketed globally. It's very expensive to manufacture different products for different markets. So they want to make products as cross-compatible as they can. There's economies in scale that way. So, once again, they'd still have 6 speeds and 5 speeds and 4 speeds that worked correctly if they weren't under such dramatic pressure to create these things so that they can minimize their tailpipe emissions for the European market and also improve their CAFE, combined average fuel economy here in domestic markets. So
it was always interesting to me. Like a lot of guys would say, well, why don't we just put an 8-speed behind the 3UR? And I'm like, they did. It's called the LX 570. They put the 8-speed behind it, and guess what? It gained 1 mile per gallon. And the only reason
it's absurd.
The only reason they did it was to keep the LX 570 from gear hunting. That's it. It's the only reason they did it, because they could program it better. But they put an 8-speed behind the 3UR, and it didn't do anything at all. And
that's why they go to
basically bulletproof.
That's why they go to direct injection, and then you have other problems. And even the new Tundra,
I don't mind direct injection as long as it's implemented correctly.
See,
even the new Tundra, though, they've got carbon buildup in that, and it's got port. And so now you have how many injectors in a V6? I mean, the complexity is just going through the roof.
A lot of people think, okay, we put an 8 or 10 speed in there and I only gained 0.5 mile per gallon or something. Like, is it really that important? What people don't understand is they use the previous version of that transmission or the predecessor transmission so long that they get every penny out of it. And the moment that it's no longer capable of being within regulations, that is when they make a change. So sometimes that change only improves things by 10%, but it gets them back into compliance. And so it may not be a huge difference to you, but once again, this is why these regulations don't work. They pressure people to add more gears, smaller displacement sizes. In the United States and Western markets, we aggressively penalize cars that have large displacements. You get around that when you have bigger engines, but in passenger cars, they're very aggressive about displacements. And as a result, what is everybody doing? They're putting turbos on them. I mean, look at the 1-liter EcoBoost. That engine would never exist without regulatory duress. And as a result, we have a deeply unreliable motorcycle engine trying to power a car.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Put a booster motor on it.
You want to know something? I had a 1400cc engine with a turbo on it in my ZX14, and you guys are putting 1000cc engine, in a literal passenger car. Like, that is insane. That is just it's bonkers, man. And the other thing is 132 horsepower, 123 horsepower. That is embarrassing. There are 1000cc sport bikes with a turbo on them that are getting 200, 300 horsepower that are relatively usable. So getting only 123 says that this is not even the most efficient system you could have came out with. And obviously they have systems on there that are designed to control net tailpipe emissions that are robbing the system of its efficiency. So the regulator cartel has done more harm than good. And I don't mean to be a guy who bangs the, V8 pushrod drum, but I'm being honest. Like, this was a more reliable industry at that time. It's just true.
Yeah. Well, look, I've owned both. I love the V35A and 10-speed, like one of the smoothest driving vehicles I've ever driven. Like, it was awesome, especially the low end torque. But I enjoy my 3UR just fine. Like, it does just fine. It gets to 70 just fine. Doesn't have a problem doing any of that.
Well, the biggest, I did a video on this, and honestly, it's not TFL's fault or any other YouTubers, but here's what happens is TFL started it, the Ike Gauntlet tests, and there is absolutely no way any V8 will ever compare to a 3.5 power boost or an RHO or anything towing at 10,000 feet. There is no way unless you supercharge it, and then you'll be eating more fuel. And so you've got the regulatory thing, and then you've got what people actually want. And when you see people drive these trucks around, I can't tell you how many times I get to a stoplight and there's some guy in a Ford EcoBoost wanting to like race somebody. And it's like, did you really buy that truck to race people? And they do. They're like foot down racing cars at stoplights and stuff. And it's like, they're the commuter trucks. And they want to tow up. I go up I-70 all the time, and it's ridiculous. I'll be towing with my Sequoia and I'm going like 55, I'm like doing what I think I should do for safety. And there's guys will just blow by you going like 80 miles an hour with tires that probably aren't rated for it on their trailers. And then I'll see them pulled over, overheated, halfway up Floyd Hill, because they've boosted so hard for so long that they're just like, they don't care.
So that reminds me, what are your thoughts on Toyota removing transmission coolers?
To be honest, man, I haven't been following it, but I can tell you there's no outcome where it's not a bad idea. I can guess that they would do that for fuel economy reasons. I would guess because when you bring up the fluid temps, you decrease viscosity. And so it would probably decrease it would decrease the resistance when it's trying to move the vehicle. So I would assume that that's a fuel economy thing, because there's no other logical reason. So once again, I'm not following that specifically, but if that's taking place on the newest vehicles, I can only logically assume that is more EPA compliance absurdity. Either that or cost cutting, perhaps a confluence of the two.
Yeah, it started in 2019 with the switch to the 1, 2, 3, 4 AC coolant refrigerant.
Well, that is more EPA idiocy. The reason they did that, is because hydrochlorofluorocarbons were contributing to a hole in the ozone layer, and the Paris Climate Accord banned it. And there is some legitimate data to support that belief system. There were a team of scientists that went to Antarctica and studied the problem and stuff, like all of that. There is some legitimacy to this stuff, but there's no way to make the argument to me that R134 was destroying the universe. Like, I just don't buy that,
Yeah. But yeah, Toyota's deal was we had to make the AC condenser bigger in order to get the same cooling efficiency by switching to that. So we removed the transmission cooler.
That's so absurd. That is so absurd.
That was one of the reasons. I think you're probably a little more on track with fuel economy because of higher transmission fluid temperatures, right? So I think a 240-degree transmission temperature is absurd.
It's murderous. Yeah. No, that'll obliterate the thing. There's no safe argument for that. 240 degrees. Just so you know, most of the glue that bonds the fiber material to the steel plates inside the transmission, that starts to turn into a liquid once you get much beyond that, and that can cause clutches to debond. So that they're really pushing the envelope. That's pretty much as far as you can go without something bad happening. I mean, pretty much all manufacturer clutch material in automatic transmissions is made by one of two companies. The first one is Borg Warner. The second one is Exidy. And neither of those clutches can safely operate much beyond that. I mean, that is way into the danger zone. I wouldn't even risk that. I designed some products that get the 10-speed Allison down into the 130s in prime conditions. So that's just ridiculous to me. But once again, it's Tuesday in the automotive industry. So,
yep. So that's really all I got. But I just have another product idea based off of that conversation. So,
the old 2008 Sequoia I have, I think 2010 was the last time they had that transmission cooler in the Sequoia.
That is true.
I've tested that thing, ripping it up I-70 to 10,000 feet, towing a boat and trailer. And it won't go above 210, like 209, 210. And that's like third gear wrapping the V8, just like hammered. It just holds. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm at a loss some days at decisions that are made. But I will say this, and I don't think I'll get in trouble for it, but if I do, it's okay. I did receive a Toyota owner's intersection survey that was specific to additional coolers that could be installed by your dealership, and one of them was a transmission oil cooler. So I'm wondering, I'm wondering what Toyota was trying to find out with said question. Really, I'm a fan of Toyota. I'm their biggest cheerleader. I want them to do well. I just, as Nate said, I want them to do the right thing all the time and not try to shortcut something because it saves $1. Just do the right thing. And the right thing in some of these instances is, hey, your motor has not changed from 2023 all the way through 2026 now, right? You have engines available. You've only done 1/3 of the vehicles that need a recall engine assembly. You've only done 1/3, which means there's a stockpile of engines somewhere because you have said that you've basically produced half of that now. You've produced at least 50,000 at this point. Just get your customer back on the road.
Yeah.
You spent 3 months worth of rental. I was in 3 different loaners. It was $10,000. It was $10,000 for you to put me in a loaner for 3 months. And then whatever it costs you to do the remedy. Oh, and by the way, you had to replace the 12-volt battery in my truck twice because it sat so long not running. So you could save yourself money, and I get that you probably have an umbrella policy that covers some of this, but in turn, you have to pass on whatever that costs you to the end consumer because you aren't doing the right thing in a lot of instances. So I just ask that you do the right thing. I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest cheerleader. It's why I stay in the group. Just do the right thing. That's all I ask. And if you want help, I'm here. I'm here to help. I can help you with processes. That's literally what my degree from college is for. It's organizational development. So I can help you with processes and procedures. And, it could have been as simple as you've got a team of 10 people that all they take is recall phone calls. And it'd have been much easier than whoever it was that took my phone call that had no idea what I was talking about and then closed my case and didn't call me back for a week when she told me she'd call me back in 2 days. And, help return Toyota to the once king of reliability and customer service. I think you'd actually sell more trucks, but that's just my opinion. We'll see how 2026 model years go.
Yeah.
That's the asterisk. Is I want to see 365 days. I want to see 12 calendar months of no failures.
I was going to say, what you're talking about today is the reason my commuter car is a 1977 Lincoln.
Yep.
And it works great.
I don't think people believed you that it was. Now they can see you're riding.
Yeah. I got 4
Lincoln.
miles per gallon. Yeah. I'm going to spend $50 driving home. How nice. And you want to know something? I'm not getting data mined. I don't have to worry about, metal shavings in my engine. It's great. I smoke a Cohiba. I sit here. I relax. I hang out with you guys. And I'm driving a half a century old piece of history. And I'm very glad. And this is why I don't buy new cars.
Yeah. Well, even if it did have metal shavings, it would probably still run.
Absolutely.